We've talked a lot about security, and one of the biggest challenges is not knowing where the next attack is going to come from. And the list of vulnerabilities changes every day. Today, we're going to talk with a company that is looking to help you understand what your attack surface looks like. So stay tuned. Hey everybody, this is Chris Brandt here with Sandesh Patel. Welcome to another FUTR podcast. If you don't know what your vulnerabilities are, it is very hard to protect your environment. It's also impossible to understand what your priorities should be. Pantera offers an agentless, autonomous, and continuous validation of your environment to give you the best picture of your attack surface. Pantera overlaps several of the Gartner categories, from breach and attack simulation to attack surface management, but it is something a little bit different. So today we have with us Pentera's Director of Sales Engineering, Jay Mar-Tang, to tell us all about it. Welcome, Jay.
Chris, thanks for having me. It's an honor and privilege.
Well, thanks for being on. I'm excited to talk to you about this one. Security is always a really, really hot topic because it's so difficult. It's fast changing, and when it gets you bad. But before we get into that, let's talk a little bit about how Pantera came about. What was the founder story? What was the problem in the market that they saw and they wanted to address?
Our founder and CTO is a guy named Arik Lieberson. Really great guy. And he spent quite some time in the IDF, the Israeli Defense Forces. In fact, he was part of the Special Cyber Warfare Group between 2012 and 2015. And towards the end of 2014, he had what he likes to call the eureka moment. And he had been doing a lot of red teaming and realized that all of the red teaming, penetration testing, the offense, what you would consider offensive security, was all very much manual. So he said, well, why can't we wrap this up into automation and make it easier for everybody to do this? Because there's quite a lot of value in the attacker's mindset. And then he left the Army, started some funding rounds, and as of today, we've gone through a round C of funding, and we're evaluated over $1 billion, and we're extremely proud and very excited about it.
Yeah, your last round was what, 150 million?
That's correct.
You get those big security numbers.
Nice.
Especially in a down market. I don't know, not many people are probably familiar with the fact that the VC market has become a lot harder to break into these days, and there's not as much money flowing out as there used to be. So it's impressive to see a raise like 150 million for sure.
Yeah, we were really excited about it.
And you should be too. We talked about automatic security validation, BAS, attack surface management. What is it that you guys do? Because you're not quite in all those categories, right?
When we look at traditionally what security was about, right, we can talk about the CIA triad, right, confidentiality, integrity, availability of data, as well as the layered defense approach, which, don't get me wrong, was absolutely the right mindset to be in. However, where we are today, I think everybody would agree that the attacks aren't slowing down, right? It's only a matter of time before we hear about something else in the news. So the paradigm shift that we're really looking to trailblaze is behaving and being able to think like the attacker. Mm-hmm. That is why we take the stance that we take with an agentless approach, which is, again, a little different from breach and attack simulation, which, don't get me wrong, again, is effective. We have many customers who still use breach and attack simulation as well.
Right.
But when we look and we want to behave like the attackers, this is where we say, okay, well, let's take an inside out, outside in approach, looking at both internal as well as external. So that's where you mentioned attack surface management.
Right.
There's all components of that, but we're trying to encompass everything and be the first world's platform and really the world's security validation authority.
It's been very hard for companies to get management on board with the investment into security, which is a challenge. And I think one of the big things is it's one of those things that you don't see the return on your investment until like something bad happens, right? and like communicating what that value is. But I think there's another piece to this that's a value proposition for, executives as well. And that if you understand where you're most vulnerable to, right, you can prioritize where your spend is. And I think any organization that is not prioritizing their spend is really not doing all they can to defend their organization. And I think tools like what you're offering help with that prioritization too. Could you talk a little bit about how that all plays out?
I agree with you, and I think it goes a little bit beyond, right, what we're discussing, because when we think about and we say vulnerabilities are just a means to an end.
Right.
Right. Attackers are going to exploit vulnerabilities. And that's the key. And not just exploit vulnerabilities, but there's going to be TTPs, tools, techniques, and procedures that are going to be used along the way in an encompassing attack or breach.
Right.
So what we're looking to do, and the mindset, again, and the paradigm shift, is not focused on vulnerabilities, but focus on TTPs and truly understand what attackers are able to do inside the environment and prioritize as a result. You can think of it as the attacker lifecycle, the intrusion kill chain. That's what we're looking to focus on, because if we can focus on the TTPs that are higher in the kill chain, we can stop it earlier in the kill chain. And as a result, the following steps or procedures will never even come to pass because we're stopping it earlier on and sooner.
The attack surfaces of most organizations tends to be very large. And the larger the organization,
Absolutely.
Much bigger. And then when you start peeling back the layers of that onion, the complexity of that path that an attacker could take gets incredibly complicated, right? So how do you do this? How do you identify those things?
We are lucky that we have a brilliant group of people who, again, were doing a lot of red teaming and offensive security straight out of the Israeli Defense Forces. They leave the army and come to work for Pantera. And I always joke about it because I say, look, they make me look good because they're the brains behind what we're doing. But once you understand, and if you're thinking and you have actual attackers inside your organization, meaning we as Pentera, right, we have the talent and the people who know what they're doing. We can take what they've been doing and wrap it up in an automation and a continuous process. Now, you mentioned something that was very true, right? The attack surface is huge.
Right.
And the question becomes, is the attack surface solid or is it porous, right? Are there holes, even if it's a very small hole? And what we want to focus on is first understanding, well, what is the attack surface? So this is where the attack surface management portion comes into play, right? Can we identify what the attack surface is? And more importantly, what does the attack surface look like from the attacker's perspective? What do they observe? What do they see? What is attractive about the attack surface? And then being actually able to launch attacks to see and actually probe and verify and validate, being the key word, of course, are the controls that we've set up on the outside actually going to stop all these attacks? Hopefully, yes. And what we've noticed is that most organizations have a good, solid perimeter for the most part, but they're not. The shadow IT use case is big because someone in this department who's just trying to get their job done may be spinning up assets that are externally facing, circumnavigating security policy and control, and now all of a sudden there's risk.
Definitely.
And then, of course, to your point, once you get inside, now it's a whole different ball game because the options could be limitless depending on what's available. But attackers don't care. They're going to hang out as long as they need to find out and gather the information they need to, and then act on their objectives.
Having an autonomous security validation that's sort of continuous too is great because, when you talk about advanced persistent threats and things like that, where they're just sitting there and constantly going at it 24 hours a day, like point in time checks are not really going to cut it, right?
100%. And that, I think, was RX's vision as well, right? Noticing that, and this is very common for organizations that don't have their own internal red team. And that's what's kind of fun about my role is that I see organizations across the board, many different industry verticals. Some organizations do have an offensive security staff, which is great because then what we're able to do is help augment what they're doing and the volume of what they can do. But a lot of organizations are still not there yet. They're still using third parties, which is only once or maybe twice a year. But to your point, it's like a snapshot in time.
Right.
Think about how often the environment is changing, whether that is because you're rolling out new infrastructure, you are hiring people, so your identities are changing. Maybe you're making policy changes. Maybe it's a time of year. If you're retail, right, you have an influx of traffic towards the end of the year because everyone's buying stuff. I mean, these are all variables that need to be considered. And if you're only doing it once a year, you truly can't answer the question, are we ready? Are we ready?
What kind of things are you looking at? I mean, there's obviously so many things to look at. What kind of things do you guys prioritize and look at?
It's really, the whole intrusion kill chain, right? When we talk about the outside, the looking at the surface, what is that? That's reconnaissance. That's the first step. Again, what do attackers see? Of course, once you're crossing that perimeter, then you can follow the rest of the kill chain, right? Are things able to be weaponized, delivered, exploited, installed? The lateral movement, the compromised identity is extremely important because this is exactly what attackers are going to do. Try and leverage what's already there, whether that is the identities that exist inside the environment that they've already done research on, your people, meaning, Jimmy Bag of Donuts over here is, he's a database administrator, or he's a developer. So I know he's got local admin. So I'm going to try and fish him. And then the continuous nature of what we can do, what Pantera can do, is we can take, let's say, Chris, you have that privilege. We can give Pantera your identity and say, well, what would the attacker be able to do with your identity? Let's find out. And in the meantime, I have 3 other projects that I'm working on, but that's okay. I can let Pantera run for 24, 48 hours. And at the end of my busy week, I could say, okay, here's what Pantera is able to do. And then I can take that information and go back and answer the question, are we ready? Well, yes, we are. We ran it with this context, and we know that our controls stopped Pantera. Or maybe we've identified some gaps, but at least we know, and now we can take the proper steps to actually address those gaps.
If you're a customer, typical Pentera customer, and this might not be the smartest question here, but what can I expect from Pentera? Like, what is the deliverable? What is an outcome that I could expect as a customer?
It's a great question. It's extremely relevant because I'll tell you what, the last thing we want, and I think it would be for anybody in this space, the last thing you want is shelfware, right? That doesn't help anybody. So what we're looking to do is get our customers up and running and get their program jump-started as soon as possible. Now, oftentimes that is going to mirror what you're already doing. So we asked a question, I'll say, hey, how often are you doing penetration tests today? Oh, we do it twice a year. We do it once a month. Okay, cool. Let's take that. Let's understand a little bit about the information, how you're using it, where you're consuming it, who's asking, what are the metrics, what is your remediation like? And let's integrate Pantera into that. So your question was like, what are the deliverables? Well, if you're running a deliverable, could be easily more tests. The volume should be increasing, right? In different parts of the network now that you have this machine speed. And that's really the value, time. I think everybody agrees time is money, but time is of the essence because when we talk about the attackers, the dwell time is what we want as security professionals to minimize. How do we minimize that? We have to discover them. How do we discover them? We have to know how they're behaving. How do we know that? We have to behave like the attackers. It all goes back to the attacker's mindset, and that's what we're enabling you to do. So I would say volume, the amount of tests that you can do in your offensive program, as well as, again, a lot of those metrics, and of course, prioritize vulnerabilities. But you know what? You're going to get to a point where you may not even be seeing vulnerabilities anymore because maybe you're at a steady state. You're in a maintenance mode. Great. That's perfect. And then you're just testing to make sure, hey, we made a change. Run Pantera. All right, we're still good. Fine. Make a change. Run Pantera. We're still good. That's the ideal scenario.
It's funny when we get a lot of feedback from clients is, God, we have so many tools. We have a tool for this use case and that use case. And, they get over-tooled. And then on top of that, like Chris was alluding to earlier, there's a lot of money going into cybersecurity right now. So there's a lot of companies. And so I feel like customers sometimes, they get confused about all the different products. How many solutions do I really need? Why do I have so many of these? So do you have any thoughts on this might be a tough question, but is there one thing that you can point to and say, Pentera does this extremely well. And that's where you can put your message around that core tenant.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And the reason I'm laughing is because I really feel that to the core. I mean, if you've ever walked the trade show floors, I mean, it's just like sensory overload, right? It's but that's what's unique about the space that we're in, because I spent many years in the industry on the blue team, right, defending with many different technologies. And to your point, you're right. There's so many tools. There's tools for this, there's tools for that. And not only just tools, but there are processes and procedures that surround these tools, right? I mean, it's not enough to say, oh,
in a best case scenario.
Right. I mean, yeah. And when we think about that, right, your question is, what do we do really well? We're looking to make sure that organizations, that the defense in depth infrastructure that they've spent hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars on is indeed working as they expect it to. We are the check to make sure that that defense in depth is working. Think of it as validation in depth. So things like the EDR, the SIM, privilege account management, and not only that, again, all that's going together, and who's responding? The SOC. Is the escalation process actually being met and being followed? And that's something we often see when we run engagements, what you would call proof of values. We just, we like to come in for a day and say, look, let's show you what this is all about. Let's show you how you'd be able to use Pantera. And I can't tell you how many times, right? The question's always, are we going to tell the SOC? Are we not going to tell the SOC? I go, that's up to you. And a lot of times if it's a third party, they go, no, let's not tell them. Or if it's there, if they're their own, let's tell them. It doesn't matter. Either way, someone usually comes running in, or there's emails, or there's phones going off, and it's like, this is good. This means, okay, your things are responding in a reasonable amount of time. And in some scenarios, well, sometimes nothing is responding, which is a separate issue. But it's still good, because the mindset is, well, at least we know we need to tweak something, or why not? And let's work together to find out what that is.
Having done this, and you said you've been on the blue team side a lot. Now you're, fully on the red team side. Could you talk to? I'm sure you've seen some like really interesting use cases and just like unusual attacks and things like that like are really things that you wouldn't have thought of. And the fact that you have autonomous tools that are looking at these things, you're kind of catching some of that.
I wouldn't even say crazy. It's more of, I'm surprised because I go, oh wow. I mean, I wasn't expecting this to happen. So for example, finding crackable accounts. We always find crackable accounts, which is interesting.
Is that just weak passwords kind of thing?
Weak passwords, things that can be done via even dictionary attacks, and being able to leverage, your own dictionary words. So for example, right, the joke is, now I live out in LA. I know I sound like I'm a New Yorker because I am, but I live out in LA now, and out here they love the Lakers, Kobe, all of that. Well, guess what do you think people are making their passwords, right? It's the sports teams and all of that. So I tell people, I go, look, if you know that certain passwords are going to be used, add your own passwords to what you think people are using to the dictionary, and right, that oftentimes pays dividends. We see a lot of, so there's that, right? And the whole cracking aspect also goes into additional attacks like Kerber roasting, which is all, again, predicated on a notion you're going to obtain a hash, bring it offline, brute force it, and now I got what I need. There's a lot of movement within the environment, especially between environments that you think or you expect to be segmented. We're talking about segments because of compliance, PCI, or segments because, this is the store's environment, talking about retail, or it's the customer environment. We see a lot of that with accounts that we thought were disabled or didn't know were still present. That's very big. We see a lot of tool misconfiguration, EDRs not rolled out. Or hey, we're in monitor mode, so we didn't realize. Okay, that's good because that's a quick change. That's a policy change, right? That's just something we didn't realize. And we see some things that were just, this switch is pulling a configuration allowing all users to read-write access. We had no idea, but because Pantera is just going everywhere, checking everything, we bubble these things up very, very fast. And that's, again, it's time. but it's always different. I never know what I'm going to walk into with environments.
The thing that's interesting about, the things you pointed out there and that you highlighted is every one of those is a human error.
Oh, 100%.
I think so many people think that, well, it's like, there's going to be a bug in the software and that's what's going to be the gateway into my organization. It's rarely that compared to, people misconfiguring things, doing the wrong things, giving information to the wrong people. It's the human element that always is the problem.
And that's even the harder element too,
Absolutely.
right? I mean, to fix that problem is tough.
Well, you can fire everybody.
That's one. All right, that's one solution. But you're 100%.
That's one way to fix things.
But you're 100% right. And it's and to no one's fault, right? That's the whole we're human, right? I mean, I don't know about you, but I'm very highly caffeinated. Okay, I have my energy drink right next to me, and when that caffeine runs out or I start to crash, it's easy to make mistakes or say, oh, you know what, I'll do this later, and in reality, I forget or whichever. Think about it this way too, right? Think about though the human element mixed with automation. You make a wrong let's just say a mishap in a policy, and then you roll out that policy because of automation, whether it's virtually or in the cloud or whatever. You've now just rolled out that error in a widespread configuration that could really leave a lot of holes too. So it could be a lot larger than just one little piece of the environment too, when we think about it.
Yeah, we see that with the automation tools, that a lot of things, just from resource, exceeding resource capabilities to just introducing errors and all that. There's a lot of automation makes it a lot faster to screw things up. And the other thing too is, since everything is so much more spread out now with things in the cloud, things on-prem, like all that, it just really makes a lot of opportunity to misconfigure things.
Yeah.
After a breach happens, we have seen this, Chris, so many times, regardless of how it actually happened, the security team now is under tremendous amount of pressure.
Right.
And it's unreasonable pressure. And then you have people that really don't understand security, trying to poke their nose into it. And while the security person's trying to say that it doesn't work like that. So what happens when those breaches happen? People leave. And they leave in droves because they know they can find another job. They know they are in high demand. So I think it's the human part of it. I think one of the biggest things is to even get the right security people and then to keep them, and actually have them stay.
100%. And you touched on a key point, right? I feel it to my core because security is it's a hard industry. Right? It's a very broad industry. People go, oh, what do you do? I go, I'm in cybersecurity. I go, oh, and I go, they're like, what do you mean? And I'm like, that's like being in the medical field, right? You could be a doctor, you could be an optometrist, you can be a podiatrist, you can be a dermatologist, right? And the same thing in security, you can be as high level as policy, you can be as low level as, forensics, bits and bytes. But none of it is easy, right? You're dealing with the people element, which is always a variable, and like you said, it's challenging and it's very easy to burn out. And I think really again, because the question that we get a lot of times is like, oh, are you going to be replacing people's jobs? Absolutely not. We're trying to use the automation behind it to make people more efficient through the automation. And if we can do that, so you can now again take this laundry list of things you got to do and tackle it a little bit more while Pantera also works side by side. Use it as a tool in your tool belt. And that's really, again, what we're trying to do for a lot of our customers.
Well, it's the classic example, man. If you have a new idea, some kind of newer technology, people are a little bit resistant to change. It's been a human challenge for us is, you have the people, the 10% that are willing to change and adapt and, learn. Then you have the 90% that are just going to be like, I just want it just to be the way that it is. And the reality is now is our world is so dynamic. There's going to be so many different changes that if we don't, as human beings, start to change and force ourselves to change, this is going to continue just to be a problem.
I think when we look at the attackers, they automate a ton of stuff too. I mean, the sheer speed at which things are happening really forces us as security professionals to try and also boost and beef up our speed. And again, that the testing and doing it continuously is what we want.
So tell me a little bit, like where do you guys go from here? Like what's next for Pantera?
It's a great question. It's funny when you think of Again, we talked about defense in depth, right? And all these tools, right? There's many areas where you can take the offensive realm. We're very much interested in right now the compromised identity. So looking at what credentials have been exposed or leaked to the outside, and being able to, one, identify those identities and then bring them inside to check. So for example, there was a breach or something, Chris, your credentials out there. Can we find it on the outside, right, in the dark web, in the internets, right? Can we find it? And if we find it, can we cross-reference it and say, yeah, this account, not only was it found, but it was also active inside, internally. That's big. So that's something that we were really excited about moving forward, as well as just understanding and getting more into cloud attacks and that, because of course, right, everyone's slowly moving to the cloud on their cloud journey. So that's our big focus, this coming year as well.
You mentioned, like seeing compromised credentials and things like that. Don't you have like something going on right now where you can check and see if your credentials are compromised?
This is what we like to offer in a limited fashion, of course, because it could be quite extensive. But we'll take a look at your attack surface, see if there's any leaked credentials, and then also, run a small test inside to see exactly what in this part of the environment. Is there exposure? Is there risk? And not only is there risk, hopefully your controls and all the things we've been talking about are actually firing the way they should be. And you can say, okay, good. In this part of the network, we're good. And so, yes, it is something that we can discuss. And, we love talking to many of our prospects and customers about how we can help and get involved in this like one-day engagement.
If people wanted to try this out, what's the best route to go?
Best bet would be to go to our website, Pentera.io. And of course, you'll see a little pop-up, hey, see a demo, right? Log there and someone will reach out. You can always, of course, go the old-fashioned route, find me on LinkedIn, add me on there and say, hey, Jay, I'm interested in this, and I'll get you to the right person. But I think the website's probably the best, because someone will absolutely, we have a great team of folks who will reach out and then get you to the right local people. I mean, we have a presence all around the world. So we want to get you with some local folks in your backyard.
How long does it take to get up and running with you guys?
Again, our engagements are a day long, so not long.
Yeah, so low effort.
Yeah, and it was funny because me as the engineer, right, I was always so used to these long evaluations, or it takes this, that, and the other thing, and in reality now it's so much shorter, and it's a lot of fun, again, because we're when you leverage the automation around things, you can really see how fast things can transpire.
It's exciting stuff. I mean, it's cool that you guys seem to have a lot of buzz going on with you guys, and you've obviously got the money side going in your favor. So that's a big
Thankfully.
plus. So
Yeah.
So we're excited to see where you guys go. Jay, thanks so much for coming on and filling us in a little bit on Pantera, and I'll put the links in the show notes for the people who want to check it out. And thanks so much for being on.
Awesome. Thanks so much for having me. It was a lot of fun, and hopefully we can do it again sometime soon.
Absolutely. Thanks. Thanks for watching. I'd love to hear from you in the comments. And please, 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 please hit that subscribe button, because we are trying to build up our subscriber base. And I will see you in the next one.